How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Pilgrim. This is from November 2019 and is the second episode of the second season of Into the Dark. Into the Dark was Blumhouse TV releasing an all-new movie on Hulu every single month. Crazy goal there, but they did it for 2 years, giving us 24 original horror movies on Hulu, and as a return, Hulu has a pretty big bank of originals now. As I mentioned previously on other videos, Into the Dark was usually themed around the months that the movies came out. So December movies, Christmas, October movies are going to be Halloween, and November, like this one, is going to be Thanksgiving. And this one definitely has more of a Thanksgiving-y feel than the last one. I previously talked about Flesh and Blood. In that one, it was set around Thanksgiving, but it wasn't super Thanksgiving-y. This one, much more. Pilgrims the whole time. Anyway, this is directed by Marcus Dunstan and stars Regin Edwards, who I believe was in Hellfest, a pretty fun Halloween amusement park slasher. So that's cool. Always cool to see horror people coming back. We also have Kerr Smith and Peter Giles. And this is about an upper-class family, and the mom thinks that her family is ungrateful. So she's going to hire some actors who play pilgrims. It's a sort of Thanksgiving service that they provide to come and share a traditional Thanksgiving feast. However, the actors get there early and they're a little strange. They won't break character, and because they won't break character, we lead to creepy and eventually downright horrific things happening. Now, to be honest, I almost didn't watch this one. I heard the concept, and in turn I looked at the trailer. The trailer's not a bad cut, it's just, I saw that concept and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be stupid, isn't it? Like, I looked at it and I thought it was going to be another one of those bad modern horror comedies that's message is way too on the nose. And I'm surprised to say I went through, I watched it, and it's actually fine. That really surprised me. I from the concept, really thought this was going to be a bad modern horror comedy. It's actually okay with that. I'm really, pardon the pun, but I'm thankful for that. Anyway, it's definitely not perfect though, and the biggest issue with this movie is the tone. This movie has moments, especially towards the end, that are downright comedic and the best parts of the movie. I just really wish that that was more towards the beginning as well. It definitely needed that humor going all throughout the movie. If it had that, it would have been way better. And also, in the moments where it is serious, I really wish that they had played up the message more. You know, part of the reason why it doesn't have a way too on the nose message is because it doesn't really have much. You get the idea that this pilgrim wants people to be more thankful. Okay, that's good. And there are a few scenes like the candy scene, which, you know, are good examples. But when it comes to the why, it's a little vague. They kind of say, oh, he had a family once. And you start to wonder, is this a maniac? Or is this a curse of some kind? But they ultimately explain it as, oh, the daughter made a bad wish on a wishbone, and in turn that's just kind of an underwhelming explanation as to what's going on here, and that's not a spoiler. It's one of the first things that happens in the movie, but then they don't bring it up again until the end, and you're like, oh, that's all that this was about? There's nothing more going on? It's, you know, like, even if it was the wishbone, was this guy a real person who got, like, mind controlled by the wishbone? I wish that we got a better sense of what's going on with these characters, but I don't know. But even though I do have those complaints with the movie, one of the surprising things, though, is the shot choice and the editing. Those worked out really, really well. For example, there's a few scenes with quick cut edits that almost feel like something from Evil Dead, or fun camera pans where there's something going on in the room, the scene, and we have to cut between objects in the room and various characters, and the camera pans around in a really creative way. I really do like the shot choice in the editing in this movie. It's really cool. Keeps it choppy, keeps it cool, keeps it fast moving. That's done really well. So that's good. Better than the story and better than the tone. And also because it can be, that cool fast-paced thing, the movie doesn't drag. I was really worried that this would be one of those movies that I'd start and then I'd pause and walk away from 2 or 3 times. But no, I watched it all the way through at once, and yeah, it does have faults, but it doesn't get boring, and that is super, super important. So I sat and watched it all the way through, moves pretty brisk, and I did like, that it held my attention the whole time. So that is a super big pro. So yeah, it's got the style, it's got the pacing, it's just the humor needed to be all the way through, and it needed to be a little stronger written. But other than that, surprisingly turned out fine, which, yeah, for a movie that looked bad enough that I almost didn't watch it, the fact that it turned out as good as it did, definitely good. So not the strongest recommendation, but still probably worth a watch. I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to analyze the plot, and that'll help us find out more things about the movie, what works and doesn't. We open up with the past Thanksgiving, and I talk about the cool shots in the movie. The camera kind of pans up and down throughout this scene that helps us transition into the future after this is over. But it's a past Thanksgiving. We have the daughter there at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and her mom and dad are fighting, and the mom leaves, thus tying the trauma directly into the holiday. But then we cut to the future, and we have a new family. The dad and the daughter are the same, but he has a new wife, and in turn, the daughter has a half-brother. And they're around the dinner table, and the mom brings up this whole Pilgrim actor thing. The daughter's ungrateful, the dad's always on his phone. Let's teach them thankfulness. Let's hire these actors. And the daughter says no, throws a fit. And I guess I should mention, the daughter is a character that by the end of the movie, I liked her. By the end of the movie, she's proven justified that, yeah, these guys are crazy. But she doesn't have the best character introduction. She comes across as angry and complaining a lot. And I really wish they had given her a better introduction, because by the end of the movie, I liked her, but we had to really work to get past this first impression. And there are things like later on it's hinted, it's never 100% spelled out, but it's hinted that maybe her mom left because the dad was having an affair with the stepmother. That would explain her motivation so much, and this really should have been something at the forefront. This should have been one of the first things we learn so that we can see, the justification for her anger. The other thing, though, is she actually has a really nice and sweet relationship with her half-brother. She's a nice older sister, and I really wish we had a scene with her and her younger brother before her outburst at the dinner table, so that, if we had been around her at her nicer side, we could have been more forgiving for her meaner side, So yeah, she's a good character. I just don't like this introduction to her. But anyway, after dinner, they do the breaking of the wishbone scene. She gets the bigger half of the wishbone, and she wishes that her mom's plan would backfire. And boy, does it. And yeah, that's it. That's the only explanation. Like, I, to be honest, forgot all about the wishbone till later on in the movie. They're like, maybe it's the wishbone. I'm like, oh, yeah, the wishbone. Like, when they did it in Krampus, they had the whole big deal with the pages of the letter flying into the sky, and Krampus is just a big evil monster. He doesn't need as much character motivation. It worked there, but when they did it in this movie, it wasn't a big enough deal, you know? You didn't have like an extreme close-up of the bone cracking or something. And in turn, it's kind of a forgettable scene that sets the rest of the movie in motion. But hinting that the Pilgrim character has something in his past, you know, saying, oh, he used to have a family, you wonder, like, what's up with him? But you never get a good enough explanation because it's just the wishbone and that's all we're gonna talk about, move on, you know? So, didn't like this setup either. But anyway, the Pilgrims get there early. They're doing a sort of HOA party get-together thing, and they show up a couple days early. It was supposed to be just the dinner, but now they have to house them. It's a guy and a girl Pilgrim. It's just two of them at first, but if you've seen the trailer, you know eventually we get more. Sadly, though, the girl Pilgrim really is the creepier character. She can be stiff and robotic. The idea that she's been forced into this one role because of her life, and now she's going to play it perfectly because she has to. You know, she's a really creepy character, and they have her go to the boyfriend's mom's house because she's had a tough year and needs the help. Yeah, book a weird actor and then send it to someone else's house. Gee. But that gets her off screen for a long time. Now, it adds more to the plot having a second house to go to, but sadly, the more interesting Pilgrim is off screen now. But anyway, he starts to talk. He tells stories about being on the Mayflower and stories about survival, and you really do wonder again, is this guy for real? Is this a magic curse? Or is this a crazy maniac actor person? It's just the wishbone. Don't ask questions. I can't help it, you know? But anyway, he's not terribly creepy for the first act of this movie, and I really wish they played more into, like, him breaking faux pas or something, you know? Like, one scene he's in the kid's bedroom late at night, telling him a bedtime story. That's about it. You know, for the most part, in the first act of this movie, the Pilgrims are like, you need to be more thankful, and can't really blame them. I mean, they're not evil yet. So, I wish they were creepier during this first act, or more funny. You know, there's a movie, Just Visiting, where there's this knight and he goes into the future and meets one of his descendants, and they do a bunch of humor about how someone from the past wouldn't understand the future world, and you could have got a ton of laughs because this movie does transition very heavily into comedy by the end. I wish the comedy was here earlier, you know? I really wish you had what would a pilgrim think of modern America, and plus the idea, you know, that like the dad's too obsessed with his phone, that would come up more naturally and it would play off and you would get it more than just a few scenes where the dad's distracted. Hey, you need to not be on your phone so much. You see how that's heavy-handed, but the humor would make it more natural. So I really wish the humor was better early on because it would also transition to the end of the movie better. So the first third is okay, but we do eventually go into a more horrific version later on, and I do have to say Acts 2 and 3 of this movie do get progressively better, and by the end it does turn into a really fun movie. So I do like where it eventually gets to. It just kind of takes a minute to get there. Also, I should mention, you know, this is Thanksgiving. We do get a dinner scene early on where the pilgrim talks about, we came here, we thought we might die, we talked to the Indians and we shared our knowledge back and forth with them, and they helped us out, and we ate the Thanksgiving dinner and gave thanks, and, you know, the good, happy Thanksgiving message we want to get across. And the daughter, of course, goes, "Oh, yeah, right, that's how it happened." But that's about it. You know, this is a Thanksgiving movie. I kind of wish that they had gone into the complex issues of this history more. You know, yeah, history was full of bad characters, and those do get the spotlight. But, you know, a lot of pilgrims were essentially refugees who were facing a very high chance of death. And yeah, a ton of bad stuff did happen. The relationships with the Native Americans were very complex, to say the least. I kind of wish we got more about history here, and we don't. Granted, it probably would have been very blunt history if Hollywood had tried to take a crack at it, but I feel like it's something that should have been in the movie, especially if we could address complexities, but it's just simply not there, and I guess I would rather have it not be there than it handled poorly. So, yeah, I don't know. And also, no Native Americans in this movie. You kind of expected that they would show up in some form or fashion, but it's just pilgrims, and I kind of feel that they were missing from this, but I guess, you know, it's just an evil pilgrim movie. It's called Pilgrim. We can't have everything, I guess. But anyway, overall, I found this to be a good enough movie. It definitely did go somewhere towards the end, but the character motivations, the writing could have been better, and we definitely needed more of the humor at the beginning. Overall, though, it's fine. Not the strongest recommendation, but for that final act, I'd have to say it'd be worth a watch. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Hulu playlist, and you can find my review for the movie Prey in there. But you can also find my reviews for the Halloween Into the Darks, and assuming these come out in the correct order, the other Thanksgiving one, Flesh and Blood. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Hulu playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.